My name is Bruce Taterka. I teach AP Environmental Science, IB Environmental Systems and Societies, and I also teach a course called Theory of Knowledge, which is part of the IB curriculum, and that's at Mendham High School in Mendham, New Jersey. Mostly 11th and 12th graders. I went to the Toolik Field Station on the north slope of Alaska, and I was working with researchers from the University of Michigan, George Kling and Rose Corey, and we were trying to study what's happening to carbon in permafrost on the tundra as that permafrost is thawing because of climate change. One of the things that was really impressive about working with my researchers was seeing how hard everybody works at Toolik. There was a big team. Dr. Corey and Dr. Kling have lots of grad students up there. They had REU students, they had field assistants. So it was a big team and everyone was working from early in the morning to pretty late at night. So I was impressed with how much people work. I was also impressed with the fact that everybody does a little bit of everything, it seems. People go out in the field, people work in the lab, people are part of the planning. So it was a real team effort, and I was impressed to see just how well the team ran. From a professional perspective, the Toolik experience was great. It's made me a better teacher. I think it's enabled me to get my students more engaged in learning about environmental science on a couple of different levels. Number one, I just know more about climate change and its impacts. Number two, I can now answer a lot of questions you get about a subject like climate change is how do the scientists know what's going on? And now that I've worked with those scientists side by side, I know how they know what they know about climate change. So I understand the process, I understand the work that's gone into it, and I understand how scientists are reaching conclusions about what they know and how they're trying to figure out answers to what they don't know. So that, I think, makes me much better able to communicate the process of science to my students and communicate to them what it takes to gain scientific knowledge. Well, my students got out of it, I think, number one, it's always nice to be able to whip out a photograph of a grizzly bear or the Brooks Range or me standing in the Arctic Ocean. I think it gives me a little more, gravity in the classroom. They know when I'm talking to these subjects, about these subjects, that I've really lived it. They're always interested in hearing stories about what it's like in Alaska. Number one, because it's so far from New Jersey. It's a place they've only heard about, they've never been to. So it's a way to get them engaged in learning about the environment by talking and showing them an exotic environment. So they get that out of it. The other thing is it has enabled me to develop new ways of teaching, new lab exercises, new ways to approach subjects, and I think they enjoy that. A lot of the time I'll tell them they're a guinea pig on a new exercise I'm developing based on my Toolik experience, and I think they get a kick out of that. Well, one of the things that was exciting was one of the other programs that PolarTREC is associated with is the JSEP program. The program where students go to Greenland, American students and students from the Netherlands. So I presented that option to my students, I told them about it, and I actually had 2 students apply for it. And one of them actually made the first cut. Unfortunately, he wasn't selected for the trip, but just the fact that students in the class were participating in that, had an opportunity to possibly be selected for it, I think really got students interested. And we looked at some of the web blogs from the kids from last year's trip to Greenland, and I think it really raised interest and maybe raised those students up a little bit in their peers' eyes that they were bold enough to apply for a trip to Greenland. So I think just the fact that an opportunity like that is out there and available to my students raises the level of excitement, even if they didn't ultimately get selected. One of the things that really comes to light being here in Boston at the National Science Teachers Association meeting is the ability to meet the other PolarTREC teachers from other years and realizing you're part of this network of teachers that have done these amazing things. For the last hour, I was talking to teachers who've been to Siberia, who've been to Svalbard Island, who've been to Antarctica, and just trading stories with teachers like that and hearing about the kind of research that's going on in those places is just fascinating, and it's a really enriching experience from a teaching perspective.